We are now just 23 days away from the official release of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, as well as creator George Lucas, Disney, and Lucasfilm. That's all sitting ready to end the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 that a lot of fans are very curious about is, of course, exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to utilize the core characters in this story, such as Palpatine, Rey, Kylo Ren, you name it, and exactly how this movie is going to literally change and retcon elements of the past 8 Star Wars movies that come before this one of which, of course, being Return of the Jedi, one of the fan-favorite Star Wars films out there, and honestly, one of my favorite Star Wars films. I have said this multiple times in the past. My top 3 movies are Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, and of course The Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if you guys are the same, but those are my top 3. Now, when we look at Episode 9 here, what's really intriguing has all to do with the moment in which Palpatine unveils a crucial, vital secret that retcons Return of the Jedi. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of a sequence where it's explained that both Rey and Kylo Ren, as well as Palpatine, are said to be inside of his throne room within the 3rd act of the film, where Palpatine is described to unveil many secrets of his past and begins to talk about his bloodline and the Skywalker bloodline. Sidious begins to unveil to both Rey and Ren vital secrets that change how the audience will view certain elements of Return of the Jedi, where it's explained that Sidious reveals that he knew that Darth Vader was on the verge to destroy him, and how he actually knew what Vader was thinking, however was surprised that he actually went through with it all to kill him. It's explained that Sidious explains to both Rey and Ben that he knew that Darth Vader was not loyal anymore from the moment he tried to kill Luke Skywalker with his Force Lightning technique, and that Palpatine had a plan to kill Darth Vader well before Luke even came on board of his 2nd Death Star. Palpatine notes that Vader had become weak and fragile, a slow, broken, sick man in an iron mask, and that during the events of Return of the Jedi, Palpatine had a plan to destroy Vader since he knew his loyalty was diminishing, and that Sidious had a plan in place to make his son. Now, Luke, literally the new Darth Vader, and had his rule of 3 plan in place during the events of Episode 6, where he wanted to turn both the Skywalkers after learning Luke had a sister, once Vader sensed it. Once Vader said that Luke had a sister out loud, Palpatine was able to sense Leia's presence on the forest moon of Endor, and saw her potential, and actually had a vision of the Skywalker twins turning to the dark side of the Force and wanted them by his side. He knew that if he could turn Luke, then Luke could turn his own sister Leia. It said that this idea came from J.J. Abrams researching the comic line called Star Wars Dark Empire, where Palpatine also wanted Leia to turn to the dark side after turning Luke. Palpatine explains that in his vision, he had seen that Luke would turn to the dark side and become the new Darth Vader, and that his sister Leia would have turned as well. Sidious explains also that during the events of Return of the Jedi, he had developed clones on the world of Jakku below the surface that he planned to use as a way to live on forever. However, after he was thrown down the shaft by Darth Vader into the 2nd Death Star and had to use his power to create a portal to go to the world of Exegol in the unknown regions, there was no way of getting back unless he would obtain the Wayfinder device, and that his clones on Jakku were abandoned and destroyed 1 year later by young Luke Skywalker after the Battle of Endor during the Battle of Jakku, where his clones were ultimately destroyed. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and why this literally changes how the fans will view Return of the Jedi. Now, there are key parts about all of this that change our view of the throne room scene in, of course, Episode 6 that released back in 1983. The first piece I want to go over here that I think is the most surprising of them all is that Palpatine actually had planned to kill Darth Vader well before Luke even came on board of the 2nd Death Star. And that is a big one, because Palpatine actually had a plan to kill Darth Vader also echoes how Kylo Ren had planned to kill Kylo Ren before Rey came on board of his Supremacy ship. I don't know if you guys read The Last Jedi novelization, but if you did, you will learn that Snoke had a plan in place to kill Kylo Ren and for Rey to take his place by his side. So, with that being said, you can really see where they got that idea from. You know, Rian Johnson, how he implemented that in the movie, and how The Last Jedi novelization explains that J.J. Abrams most likely got that idea from Rian Johnson. Now, how this retcons Return of the Jedi is obviously right then and there. In that moment in the throne room battle during the events of Episode 6, is that also Palpatine saw a vision of both young Skywalker and Leia turning to the dark side of the Force, and that he had his Rule of Three plan all pretty much figured out by his strategy right then and there once Darth Vader sensed that Luke had a sister named Leia, and that once Darth Vader sensed this and said it out loud, that's where Palpatine was able to actually sense Leia's presence on, of course, the forest moon of Endor, and is surprised that they were able to hide her for decades. Now, that is a big one, right? Because we do know that this movie is, of course, going to change certain elements of the past 8 Star Wars movies, and that is yet another big one. But I think the biggest one of them all is the fact that during the events of Return of the Jedi, literally, during the events of that throne room battle between Palpatine, Luke, and Vader, is that clones of Palpatine actually existed on the world of Jakku, below the surface of the planet. However, there's a catch, is that Palpatine was not able to use those clones because he was thrown down the shaft of the second Death Star and had to literally make his way over to Exegol by creating a wormhole, and was trapped there for a very long time and could not make his way back. Hence, his clones were ultimately destroyed by Luke Skywalker during the Battle of Endor, or should I say the Battle of Jakku, that, by the way, takes place 1 year after the Battle of the Battle of Endor, by the way. So, that's a very interesting thing, the fact that clones did in fact exist at one point in time during Return of the Jedi for Palpatine, but they were destroyed 1 year later after Return of the Jedi by Luke. So you can see how all of this really changes how the fans are going to view, Return of the Jedi. But the thing that doesn't make sense to me, the thing that really makes absolute no sense to me, is how there is a segment in which Palpatine explains to Rey and Kylo that he had sensed that Darth Vader was about to kill him, however was surprised that he actually went through with it. You would think that if Palpatine even sensed that there was a form of danger or a form of betrayal against him by Darth Vader, that he was going to kill him, you would think that Palpatine would stop, electrocuting Luke and turn it over to Darth Vader. You would think that, right? So, I don't know if that's just poor writing on J.J. Abrams' part, or if it's just a way to create shock value for no reason at all. I don't know. But that one part of retconning Return of the Jedi just doesn't make any sense at all. Because the fact that Palpatine knew at the time, when he was trying to kill Luke, that Vader was about to turn on him and didn't do anything about it, literally makes his death, or his fake-out death, a little bit less meaningful in, of course, Return of the Jedi. So, the last piece that I just want to tap into here is, of course, how he actually even had a vision of both Luke and, of course, Leia turning to the dark side of the Force and becoming the new Darth Vader. Literally seeing a vision of Luke as the new Darth Vader. Once again, this most likely is J.J. Abrams, scrapping elements from the original script of Return of the Jedi by George, and, how he actually wanted Luke to put the Vader helmet on and claim that he is Vader, having a very dark ending at the very end of that movie. That didn't turn out to be, obviously a part of the final version. But there was an original script by George Lucas, and that J.J. Abrams most likely cherry-picked that idea to put it into the form of a vision that's explained by Palpatine to Rey and Kylo Ren. So, once again, you can see how a lot of elements are borrowed from unused material for the original trilogy, and how that's all really going to unfold in this story. So, with that being said, this movie does have a lot going for itself. It does still hold the potential to mark itself down as the best film of the sequel trilogy. I'm just not quite sure how I feel about these decisions actually changing how fans view Return of the Jedi. Some of which make sense, some of which make absolute no sense, and kind of just sounds like poor writing, to me at least, by J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio and everybody else involved with this movie, and how everything is utilized for Palpatine's revelations in the third act of Episode 9 that will change the originals and the prequels. So, with that being said, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.